Interruption, but I'm Mike Wilbon. Ohio State and Notre Dame will play in the college football title game, Tony. It's a proud time for those of us from the great Midwest.
Tony Kornheiser, you're from the Midwest?
Yeah.
You've never mentioned that.
I never did.
You're from, really?
I-94, not I-95. I never went through that.
I had no idea. I thought you were from North Scottsdale. I thought you were born and raised.
That's the westernmost suburb of Chicago. Just so
Not
you know.
South Scottsdale, kids. North Scottsdale. Welcome to PTI, boys and girls. In today's episode, Mike McCarthy is out in Dallas. Ohio State is in the college football title game, and the Vikings and Rams get set to cap off Wild Card Weekend. But we begin today with the Washington football team getting a fortunate bounce off the goalposts on a final play field goal attempt to beat Tampa Bay 23-20. Washington became the only road team to win the wild card. They were led, as they have been led all season, by their spectacular rookie quarterback, Jaden Daniels. Wilbon, what does this win mean for Washington and for Daniels?
Tony, they've come so far. You know, nationally, people are starting to put together the pieces. You hear the story often enough. You start to connect some dots. You and I have connected all the dots. We did most of them live at the time they were taking place. And so it's stunning that the franchise, which was just an embarrassment, a civic embarrassment, a national embarrassment, a professional industry-wide embarrassment, has now come to this point so quickly under new ownership and under a new general manager and under a new coach and under a rookie quarterback who has the complete confidence of his team. And now he has the confidence of a venue, of the nation's capital. It's almost unthinkable for those of us who have lived and watched it firsthand. And even, like I said, for those of us, you and me, who've covered some of it, the beginning of it. And yet, Tony, I mean, it was a game that could have gone either way last night. It was sort of a pick'em game. It had drama, all the elements of drama. I do feel a little bad for Baker Mayfield. I mean, there were a couple of mistakes in that game. I'm not sure he's to blame.
All season and has lived under their expectations that we had from them coming from 2023. So to me, it's absolutely the Chargers.
Taking a break right here. We're way past the horn.
Joy in the word. There was such joy on their faces. And the people that I'm talking about are people who deliver packages in the morning or pick up the trash in the morning or build houses in the morning or put on suits and get in a car and go downtown to an office in the morning, maybe even on Capitol Hill. And there was a palpable joy in what is going on because, Mike, as you well know, this is a resurrection of optimism due completely to this football team. It's this football team, and it is palpable out there. You can feel it. For 25 years, all the joy was gone. It was just gone. And now in the second year of new ownership, as you said, they've hired a new general manager, they've hired a new coach, they've hired a new offensive coordinator, and they've drafted this kid, okay? And this kid, if he stays healthy, is going to keep him in this position for years. Mike, Jaden Daniels is Joe Burrow. He is Cam Newton. He is Lamar Jackson. He is that rare Heisman Trophy winner who comes into the league with confidence, ability, and stage presence. He's got it. He's the goods, Mike.
It seems that all things are now possible for that franchise. When 2 years ago, it was the opposite. It's a 180-degree spinorama. It's wow.
It is. They've gone from 4-13 to 13-5. It is a complete and heartwarming turnaround. If you live here. If you live here.
It was a little loud in my house last night. Neville, Cheryl, a little loud for a Bears fan. It's a little difficult.
I hope you gave Neville my best.
Congratulations.
Love Neville. Neville and I play golf.
The weekend's other 4 games were not close. The Texans picked off Justin Herbert 4 times and won by 20. The Ravens ran literally through the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Bills pounded the Broncos, and the Eagles got the better of the Packers. Tony, which winner particularly impressed you?
So I've got a 1 and 1A. They are not quite equal, but they're very, very close. My 1 is Buffalo beating Denver. Denver scored the first 7 points of the game, I think, on its first possession. They did not score after that. Buffalo got the next 31, and Josh Allen was brilliant. My 1A is Baltimore. For the second time in, I think, 3 weeks, they pound Pittsburgh. As you say, They ran at them, they ran around them, and they ran through them, and Lamar Jackson was brilliant. And anybody who is not looking forward to seeing Josh Allen play against Lamar Jackson this weekend is just not a fan of sports. It's that simple. I was wrong on the Houston game. You were right. I never imagined that Justin Herbert, with 3 interceptions the whole season, we have 4 in one game.
Baby.
It's terrible.
4.
And he's had terrible playoff games. He's 0-2. The other one, he blew a 27-0 lead to Jacksonville. I was right on Philadelphia, Mike, but I thought it was going to be closer because I didn't really understand how Jalen Hurts was going to walk into this game, if that was going to work. But Jordan Love was no good. I think he had 3 interceptions. And they didn't score any points at all, in the first half. So for me, Buffalo won and Baltimore won.
Well, for me, just this one pick makes me feel better about my entire prediction preseason that Houston would get to the AFC title game and play Kansas City. Yeah. Oh, they're going to play Kansas City, but it ain't the AFC title game, and they're not getting to the AFC title game. So let's be fair. Yeah. But I was glad Houston won because, as you know, all year I've been saying Houston, 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 at least That's at the beginning of the year, and I felt pretty good about that. And going out and taking it from Justin Herbert 4 times, come on, that's significant now. That coaching staff had that team ready to play, and I can't figure out the Chargers, and it was just a bad game. Maybe it's a one-off. And next, and maybe even most impressively, it's Baltimore, man. That's the football that some of us of a certain age crave and praise. Tony, to see them run the ball 50 times for 299 yards, to see Derrick Henry go, what did Derrick Henry go for? 186 and Lamar Jackson for 81 against the Steelers, against the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, there's probably 3 teams that stand for, when they're good, defense and stopping you and hitting you in the mouth. Steelers, when the Bears are good. There's a few, the Raiders. The Steelers at the top of the list, and they got starched. That was like Mike Tyson and Spinks.
That's right.
Michael Spinks, it was just a beatdown. So it's Baltimore, and yes, I can't wait to see Baltimore
want to see that game.
And Buffalo. Yeah. Can't wait.
I want to give out one award for the greatest single play I saw all weekend.
What?
And that was the tight end of the Eagles, Dallas Goedert. He takes a pass in the third quarter from Jalen Hurts. He goes 24 yards for a touchdown, and he just posterizes the DB from Green Bay, right? I mean, he pushes him away twice like he's taking a gnat off his clothing. I mean, I don't know the kid's name. I don't want to know because it's embarrassing. What a great play that was. We move now to coaching news. The Mike McCarthy drama in Dallas is over. He will not be back with the Cowboys. Jerry Jones is letting McCarthy walk, and other teams no longer need Jerry's permission to talk to McCarthy, so this puts your Bears in play, Wilbon. What now for the Cowboys and for McCarthy?
I don't care about the Cowboys. Jerry Jones will do whatever makes sense for him personally, and if that's Dion, then Jerry will have to share the stage in a way that Jerry doesn't really share the stage. So that it would literally just sort of blow the tops off the heads of Stephen A. and Skip Bayless. It just, they seriously, I mean, it's so invested in discussing the Cowboys every single day, cottage industry. I don't care about them. So I care about Mike McCarthy, who knows his way around the NFC Central. He knows his way around Green Bay, Chicago, Detroit, Minnesota. He may not be the first name on my list. I'm starting to go with Cliff Kingsbury. I'm starting to feel that a little bit more. But he's right there. And if the Bears hire him, Tony, he looks the part of a Bears coach, a big, beefy, tough guy who had great success when he wasn't dealing with Jerry Jones. And he won 12 games a bunch of times when he was dealing with Jerry Jones. So you can bring him in and say, you're going to mold Caleb Williams. We know that you can go out. You've got the experience here to get a defensive wizard to bring in. So if we hire him, if Mike McCarthy goes to Chicago, I will be excited about that, just like I would, the Lions offensive coordinator, Ben Johnson, and I just told you Cliff Kingsbury. I'd be excited for all that. But McCarthy...
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned Ben Johnson because you were passing him over for a little while there when he got on Kingsbury, and I know you wanted Ben Johnson all the way.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't know who's going to coach the Cowboys. You mentioned Dion. That's an interesting possibility. Mike Tomlin now has lost 6 straight playoff games. Maybe he wants to move. Maybe he would want to go to Dallas.
For him.
But here, let me point out something that you have said, because you're right. Ever since Bill Parcells left Dallas, Jerry Jones doesn't hire coaches with cult followings. He doesn't do that.
No.
He hires very, very straight-laced people. He hired Wade Phillips. He hired Jason Garrett. He hired Mike McCarthy. And these people do not threaten his authority or his stardom. They are pawns, and Jerry is the king. I don't know that Dallas is a great job right now. I know they have some stars. They have Dak Prescott, who was hurt all year. They have C.D. Lamb. They have Micah Parsons. But Mike McCarthy's a pretty good coach, and he got him to the playoffs 3 times, and he was only 1-3 with them in the playoffs. So I don't know. I'm interested in this. I wonder who's going to mention Mike Tomlin thinking about Dallas opening up Pittsburgh because Mike McCarthy is born and raised in Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Born and raised in Pittsburgh. He once told me that he had a job as a toll collector on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. I'm serious about that.
What if he was in Somerset?
And he was 12-5 3 years in a row in Dallas. So you could do worse than Mike McCarthy. And you know who's done worse than Mike McCarthy? The Jets and the Giants. Time and time again.
And the Bears.
Much
4
worse.
times since
And
Lovie Smith. I'd take Mike McCarthy right now.
Coming up, should Ohio State's win over Texas end fans' dissatisfaction with the head coach, Ryan Day?
And do the Vikings or Rams have the edge now in tonight's neutral field wild card game in Glendale, Arizona? I'll take McCarthy.
What do you make of Tomlin? We both love Tomlin. He's 6 in a row.
He can't go
work
for Jerry Jones. He can't. You got to have too much pride for that.
Somewhere. It's time to find out what's rankling the riffraff in mail time.
Mail time?
Pull us out here and see what works. What does Ohio State's win over Texas mean for Ryan Day?
It means I don't think we're going to have to hear about Ryan Day's imminent firing, mostly because he couldn't beat the school up north. That sort of goes away for a while because I personally think Ohio State is going to lay waste to Notre Dame. That's just me going in. I'm not the only one who thinks that. I just think that will happen. And then if Ryan Day wins a national championship, we can probably go all the way to next November without hearing about how he has got to be fired and they got to go get somebody who can beat the school up north. So, you just get a little bit tired if you do live in the Midwest like I do, even though I'm glad to see Ohio State and Notre Dame. You get tired of that storyline with Ryan Day, and I think we're done with it. That's what that win does.
Yeah. I agree with you completely. It means that they're not going to fire Ryan Day. They're not going to fire him even if he doesn't win the national championship because he won 3 playoff games. He beat Tennessee, he beat Oregon, and he beat Texas. Tennessee was ranked as high as number 4 this season. Oregon and Texas were ranked number 1. Ryan Day beat them all.
Yeah.
I understand that he lost this year to Michigan, and I think he's lost 4 in a row to Michigan. I get that. But his record at Ohio State is 69-10, Mike. 69-10. He's got 1 other loss other than Michigan losses in the Big Ten. So his record against the rest of the Big Ten is something like 40-1. There are people in Columbus who are zealots who want to get rid of him. I understand that. They live in a silo. Good for them. Do you know that Jim Harbaugh was 0-5 at one point against Ohio State?
They talked about firing him.
There are zealots in Ann Arbor who probably wanted to fire him. If they'd fired him, they would not have won the national championship, would they? They would not have won the national championship. So,
by the way,
I think
Ohio State, did they beat, did I have this right? Oregon, Penn State, Indiana, Texas, and if they go through Notre Dame, you mentioned Tennessee, if they go through Notre Dame. I mean, my God, how many top 5 teams do you have in that posse? That's amazing.
That's right. It's a lot. Here we go. Here's the next one. Do you expect the Vikings to be the second road team to win during Wild Card Weekend?
Yeah, I do, Tony. And you can't talk about any team from Los Angeles now without dealing with the plight, the tragedy, the great civic tragedy of Southern California. And
that's right.
I'm going to watch this. It takes some of the joy away. I just feel it's probably inappropriate to treat the game and the run up to it like we would any other playoff game. The game is played in Glendale, about 5 hours or so east of Los Angeles. I've made that drive a few times in my life. And people need to know that the Valley of the Sun, the greater Phoenix area, it's the upper Midwest. That's the migration. I-95 down to Florida, the Midwest to Arizona. There are Minnesotans all over the place anyway. They live there. That is going to be a home field advantage for the Vikings tonight.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning the fact, the understandable nature of moving that game because of the sadness and the tragedy with the fires in Southern California. I had not thought about this, but I don't know how the people on the Los Angeles Chargers, I don't know how they took that out of their minds when they played. I don't know how the people on the Rams can take that out of their minds when they play. I think Minnesota is going to win. I would caution people that this Rams team won the Super Bowl 3 years ago. You know, that's recent times with Matthew Stafford and Cooper Kupp, and they added Puka Nacua, and they can score on anybody. And in fact, they beat the Vikings this year, Mike. Week 8, they beat them 30-20, and Stafford had 4 touchdowns. But having said all that, I do think Minnesota is going to win. I do think the fact that it's a neutral site game will help them. Yeah. That one odd little small fact, Mike, that since the NFL expanded to 14 playoff teams, only 5 of the 29 wild card games that have been played so far, only 5 have been decided by fewer points than a touchdown. Yeah, so it's sort of like the college football playoff at the moment. Enough email. Let's take one last break. Still to come is Mike Vrabel, the right fit for the Patriots job.
And the Cavs take a rare loss. I believe that was at home. How surprised should we be with last night's outcome? Another team is hot, 6 in a row for the team that beat the Cavs, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, the 28th birthday Connor McDavid. The former number 1 overall pick of the Edmonton Oilers has justified all the lofty expectations for his personal performance. McDavid is a 5-time All-Star. He has led the NHL in scoring 4 times. He's been the MVP twice. McDavid is currently tied for 4th in the league in assists this season and 6th in points. The Oilers are currently 2nd in the Pacific Division. If there is a shortcoming with McDavid so far, it is that his team, even with 2 electrifying scorers like McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, haven't won a Stanley Cup. They broke through to the final last year, but after clawing back from an 0-3 hole in games, they lost Game 7 to the Florida Panthers.
You know, I root for McDavid in Edmonton, Tony. I just do. I like everything about them, the style, the swagger, the skill set, and just how great McDavid is. I just want them to win. I want this discussion away from him. You know, like firing the Ohio State coach. I just want that to go away, but he's going to have to win for that to happen.
A not-so-happy anniversary, A.J. Hinch. On this day 5 years ago, Hinch, who was managing Houston, and Jeff Luhnow, who was general manager, were fired by Astros owner Jim Crane for their roles in the sign-stealing cheating scandal. Baseball suspended both for 1 year. Shortly after the suspension lapsed, Hinch was hired to manage Detroit. Hinch led the Tigers to the playoffs this year after they closed 29-15 despite trading away much of their capital at the deadline. Wisely, they kept Tarek Skubal. The Tigers' wildcard opponent, ironically, was the Astros, and Detroit swept them 2-0. Hinch became the 3rd manager in MLB history to face his former team in the postseason, the team he had guided to a World Series victory.
Tony, Detroit not exactly title town yet, but you got the Tigers in the postseason. You got the Lions roaring in full roar. And the Pistons are trying to get competitive. They've seen the Red Wings win enough. It's a pretty good time for Detroit sports, relatively speaking.
Happy trails to the Patriots head coach opening. As was widely expected, Mike Vrabel is New England's new head coach. The 49-year-old won 3 Super Bowls as a Patriots linebacker, had a mostly successful stint as head coach of the Titans before getting fired after last season. Vrabel takes over a Patriots team that went 4-3 under first-year head coach Gerard Mayo, and now becomes the guy who followed the legend. Plus, he appears to have a quarterback in Drake May and the 4th pick in the upcoming draft.
Vrabel's resume qualifies him to coach anybody. But I'm interested, Tony, and I'm glad Byron Leftwich and Pep Hamilton, both of whom I know, got interviews by the Patriots, interviews in air quotes. The Patriots are, let me just say, my feeling, guilty of circumvention of the Rooney Rule. Plain and simple. They knew what they were doing. They didn't want to have legitimate interviews. They wanted to give this to Vrabel. So they're going to have to do something to strengthen the Rooney Rule or stop, because it becomes a sham when you do what the Patriots have done in this case. And Vrabel, again, so deserving to be a head coach.
We have one correction. McDavid has 3 MVPs, not 2.
Wow.
I must have gotten that one wrong. Let's go to the big finish. Clippers and Lakers. Both play at home in LA tonight. Your thoughts?
Tony, I know that the season and the fires may go on, sadly, for a long time, but it still seems too soon. I don't know what to do about it. The Pacers ended the Cavaliers' 12-game winning streak. You surprised?
Well, they got a 6-game winning streak of their own, but yes, I am. Tyson Fury announces retirement from boxing for the 4th time. Do you believe this one?
No. I'd like to see a 4th fight. I guess it would be a 4th with Deontay Wilder, because they put together one of the great fights in heavyweight history a couple of years ago. Cooper Flagg scored 42 in Duke's win over Notre Dame. Is that significant?
I watch it. It's the most points ever by a Duke freshman, most points ever by an ACC freshman.
Impressive.
Last one, women's college hoops. Number 2, South Carolina beat them. Number 5, Texas. You impressed?
Yeah, but how about this? Alabama, Oklahoma, LSU, Tennessee. Upcoming opponents all ranked. Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks will have their hands full.
We're out of time. We'll try to do better the next time. John A. Walsh, happy birthday.
I'm Mike Wilbon. Same time tomorrow, Knuckleheads. And now to get you set for Vikings Rams, here's Scott Van Pelt.